All right. Welcome, gentlemen, to Focus on Liberia. To discuss the three major national issues tonight. We have national issue number one, the December 13th protest in simultaneous in Washington, D.C., and the one that is planned to be held. It was held simultaneously in Washington, D.C. and Monrovia. We have another protest coming up on December 30th, aka the We Are Step Down protest. We also will be discussing on tonight the ruling party. Something look like there is a ruling party. We want to be looking at that, and also the printing of the doom banknotes. With me to discuss this, I have Michael Shelton all the way from Vancouver, Canada. Michael, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Great. And congratulations on your debut on Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next, we're going to have participating tonight is Mr. Jimmy Eastman from the nation's capital. Jimmy, welcome for the second time on Focus on Liberia.
Thank you for the opportunity to share this intellectual forum.
Thank you. Last but not the least is the one and only Dr. Bartum Kulah. Welcome to Focus on Liberia. You are right here with me in Atlanta, Georgia.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to a very healthy debate on the issues that are current in our nation right now.
Thank you. And this is your first time on Focus on Liberia. I want to say we'd like to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And there's so many things going on at the national level. I want to say, gentlemen, welcome to the and let me see it. Michael, do you have anything at your end?
Sorry, no, I don't have no issue. Everything is okay.
No, okay.
There's a little echo with you,
yes, there's some echo. It's like you have something on, like a Facebook, listening to the show at the same time.
Okay. Maybe I don't know. I can turn off my Facebook.
Yes, please. Just put the volume low, muted. You can look at it, but
you can look at it, just mute it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the feedback we were getting.
So too many things happening. Just we want to do the rounds for Mr. Let's start with Dr. Kulah briefly. You know, say something about yourself to my audience and also to the panel.
Well, thanks again for having me. I'm Dr. Bartum Kulah, a family medicine resident physician living in Atlanta. I'm also a political advocate, if you would call it that. Politics and current events, the social structure of our people has been a very interesting part of my life. And I think it comes from the fact that one of my uncles has a PhD in anthropology from UCLA. And most people in my family say I'm like him. So if I hadn't gone into medicine, I would probably be an anthropologist or a political scientist. So I look forward to a very worthwhile debate that looks at the issues from all avenues, that looks at it from an objective perspective, so that our people can learn something. And I wish our president and those around him will listen to this interview so that they can learn something and govern themselves accordingly. Because what I've noticed is, and I'll go more into as we debate, that there's this thing where they believe that running a country can be done through propaganda like they did when they were in opposition, by having people like Michael Gilman do propaganda to put out their vision of the country. But I think that's the wrong way to go, and I'll give you more on that as we go on.
Thank you. Jimmy, something about Jimmy?
Hi, I live in the Washington, D.C. area. I've been working with corporate America for the last 15, 20 years. I find our national issues my concern. And I've been asked to provide independent analysis on different issues and different, particularly the Gita Hard Talk show. And I hope to contribute my meager expertise and outlook on a lot of these issues. I think it is important for us to discuss things that are hard to resolve. A different point of view, different reflections help us understand one another, and through conversation and dialogue, we can resolve a lot of our issues once we know how each other think. So it's interesting, and I'm looking forward to participating tonight.
Thank you so much, Mr. Eastman. Let me go to my man from Vancouver, Canada. Michael, say a little bit about yourself.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for being part of this important exchange of ideas. It is always significant that we come together in the civil manner and discuss issues pertaining to our country. I have a background in, I have an MBA from Dublin Business School, and my major is in project management. I have been interested in politics for a very long time, but the manner in which politics in Liberia have been discussed, has just turned me off. And I am interested in helping Liberia because I feel that it is a man's duty to help his nation, his family, and a responsibility to his God, which also his conscience. So I think the best way to help Liberia personally is through business. I've been engaged in politics in Norway, on a very local level, wherein I try to help foreigners there to establish businesses for themselves, to integrate through economic independency. And I think I want to take the same to Liberia to help Liberia through, business endeavors. I feel that we have a lot of politicians or so-called politicians in Liberia. And Liberia now is just, everything is just, politics. But I think that we are a little nation, very much interrelated. I think we can figure out the right approach for Liberia through a civil exchange. Now, I don't have a lot of political, expertise on Liberia. I just have my own personal views, and I'm here to, share some of them with the audience and my fellow, the guys I'm going to have the exchange with. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And what we always want to start with is just so we know more about you, does any of you support a particular political party in Liberia? Let me start with you, Jimmy. Do you have a side, either on the government side, opposition, or any specific political party that you align with or that you support?
Are you referring to me?
I'm starting with Mr. Eastman.
Okay. Oh no, okay, thank you. We're getting that feedback again. No, I've never been part of any political party. I'm neither a part of a political party at today. I am looking forward for Liberia's success, and I will help any administration that tries to achieve that.
Thank you. Dr. Kulah?
I'm not officially, Mr. Shelton, if you have your Facebook on, can you turn it off or turn it down? Because we can hear feedback. We're in a feedback. If anybody has their Facebook on or anything on, please turn it down.
Not for me, no.
Not officially.
Mr. Shelton, Kweh, the feedback is coming from you. So if you have anything on, like your Facebook.
I just uninstalled the Facebook from my phone. I don't know what else I can do.
I don't know where the feedback coming from, but go ahead, Mr. Kulah.
I'm not officially part of any political party in terms of being a card-carrying member of either the CDC or the NPP or the LPDP or ANC. However, I have been approached by all of them, and I refuse to be a part of a political party because everybody seems to be in this thing with their own little agenda. And I haven't seen the person yet that I really believe in. I have to find someone that I really believe in to support. So I'd rather stay neutral until then. The other thing is that My politics is more of a patriotic one, looking at the country and what's best for the country, and looking at it objectively, as opposed to looking at it from, I'm a countryman, so I have to support a countryman, or I'm a mono man, so I have to support a mono man, or whatever the case may be. And I think that's where our politics has been for too long. I think it's about time we change it. Now, for full disclosure, I think it would be incumbent upon Mr. Eastman to let the people know that he was part and parcel of the group that went to Washington, D.C.
Yeah, we'll come to that, Dr. Kulah.
Okay.
Let me go to Mr. Kweh.
He does lean with the president, the people around the president that are pushing this propaganda.
Yeah, hold on, Dr. Kulah. We'll ask Jimmy has already stated who he is. Mr. Kweh, do you align with any political party or any position?
Where I support the CDC-led government. I am not a politician myself. I am still understanding or learning about the political inner workings of Liberia. Okay. And I feel that we should support this government and give the government a chance to be able to govern in a way that will bring success to Liberia. But actively, I'm not a politician, and I don't belong to a specific political party.
Thank you.
I supported her when she was there, and I disagree with her on many fronts. But leadership is from God, and we just have to give this administration the time.
Thank you, gentlemen, and I'm excited about this. We want to say welcome to all our viewers across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia. Tonight is our debate Friday. We want you all to welcome. We'll be posting the phone line very shortly that everybody will take part. But we cannot start tonight. We have three major things that we're going to be talking about, but we cannot start tonight debate without what has been trending on the news. And that's the interview of the president. I will play a little bit of it, and I want each of you to respond. I know you've listened to it, but I'm going to play a little bit of the interview, and I'll get your response on the president's interview tonight.
No problem. We're talking about securing our peace and making sure that the ground is always stable so that we get the right kind of investment for our country. It would be remiss on our party if we don't talk about this so-called December 30 now march or protest.
That's the question.
What's your take on all of this? As a president, when you hear these things, how do you feel?
Well, there's a noble protest. I've seen it. It's all casualties. I know protest is not the right way. The right way. The government very peaceful. I don't worry about protest or close down protest. You understand? The message to my people: we have to be peaceful. You have the law. If you are granted a permit to protest and you're doing in a peaceful way, it allows you. So the justice minister has the power to make sure that people that want to protest go through the actual framework of securing a ground to protest. You understand? So, but again, I think we need to follow those laws.
All right. That's just a short clip from the president, but the president covered a lot of ground today on many issues: the protests, World Court, DP Wakai, and all the 9 years. Dr. Kulah, let me go to you first on your overall impression and your feedback on the president's interview.
My position on the president's statement is that two things I got from it. One was he talked about protest. He talked about the opposition. Well, more than two things. He talked about protest. He talked about opposition. And then another thing I picked out from it was when he talked about civil liberties. Now, everybody in your country has the right to protest. They have the right to assemble. They have a freedom of speech. They have a freedom of movement. Those are civil liberties. However, I see a situation wherein a lot of the people that are supporting the president, people like Gilman and others, have been beating this war drum and claiming that Henry Costa's December 30th protest is one that's going to bring war, and he's calling Henry a terrorist and so on and so forth. But the reality is protests does not bring about war. Now, what brings about war and what brings about rioting, there's a difference between protest and a riot. What brings about rioting is what the government did when, after allowing Costa and his followers to come all the way to Monrovia without any incident, they decided that once they got to Vamoma, they were going to put buses across the road and block the road. There was a gentleman in a van that was dying and that needed to get to Catholic. They couldn't let him through because some wise guy decided they were going to stop Costa and his group from going to the CO Center where he was supposed to make his speech. Now, when they stopped them and a group of guys got involved, I think they said the Sabu unit of CDC, and then the police discharged tear gas, that's when everybody went helter-skelter and it almost broke out into a riot. I picked up the phone and I called Moses Carter, the spokesman for the police.
Dr. Kulah,
what you guys are
I don't
doing
mean
wrong.
to cut you off.
This is how y'all create violence and how y'all create war and how y'all create riots in the midst of peaceful protests. And what he told me was, we cannot allow them to breach the security corridor. What security corridor? This man has been in Liberia before.
Dr. Kulah,
that same place
we're going to go specifically
downtown,
into the protest.
Made a speech, and he left.
Can you hear me? Dr. Kulah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're going to go specifically into the protest. Overall, the president covered a lot of ground. So I want you to react to the president's interview.
All right, I'm reacting to the president interview in the sense that the president also is being told that protest is bad.
Yeah.
They're allowing one group of people to protest against protests without permits, going across the road and blocking the roads and whatnot, and it's fine, the independent COP, but they won't allow other people to protest. So the president is being told that protest is bad. That's what he said in his speech. He talked about civil liberties, but then you're affecting other people's civil liberties. He talked about boycott and what he's done for boycott. You as a president, you're putting out somebody's confidential medical information to score political points. I think that was wrong. I think the interview of itself was of low quality. It did not speak to what the president needed to speak to. As a leader, what the president needs to do is build confidence in his government, build confidence in the economy so that people can continue to put monies in the bank so that people can come and invest. But when you're talking the way he's talking, it does not bring confidence to investors, neither to your people. So I think the speech in and of itself, or the interview in and of itself, was weak as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. Jimmy?
Yes, thank you. I was a chance to listen to the president's interview today, at least most of it. And what I was hoping that he'd unite us, because it appears that we are polarized. So I was looking forward to him addressing our unity and bringing us together. I was also looking forward for him to show strength in securing the country. It is enshrined in our Constitution, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, okay? So we believe that everyone has that right and it should never be taken away from them. However, even in the Constitution where it guarantees that right, there is a clause there that says in the cases of emergency or when the government deemed necessary for the safety of the society, they can use their discretion. Now, we want to see the peace of Liberia and the prosperity of Liberia continue. At the same time, we want people to be able to express themselves. It is only through difference of ideas that we progress. If we all thought the same way, we wouldn't go anywhere. But it's the diversity of thought that brings about invention, that brings about differences. So it is good for people to express themselves. At the same time, we have to protect our security, our peace. We believe in protest, but should a protest completely halt, disrupt every economic and business activity in the entire city? Should it shut the city down? Think about it. There's nothing wrong with protests, but should all businesses and everybody shut down because of it? Now that is where we have to think about when the security and the functioning and the operations of the city.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with expressing thought, expressing ideas, but we also need the business as normal to go on, to continue.
Mr. Eastman, can you react specifically to his what he said about VP Boakai?
Yes, this is maybe it's politics as usual. We've seen politicians. I've heard lately that there's been talk that Boakai is trying to rival him in the next election. So I expect to see these political jabs come out. As typical, we see them here all the time. How the opponents jab each other. I think it was a political jab.
Okay.
Okay, so I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's your call. Politics is not a friendly game.
Yeah. All
so
right. Good.
That's how I looked at it.
Mr. Kweh, what's your reaction
Yeah.
to the president's speech? And we're still getting that feedback.
Oh my God, I really don't know what to do now. I
I'm hearing
I don't know what.
myself. Your phone is
watching.
on and you were watching it. So somewhere.
Not at all.
Yeah, I don't know what to do. I turned off I uninstalled my Facebook,
Okay.
and yeah, I really don't know what to do.
Before I react to the president's speech, we'll manage.
All right. Well, I did not listen to all of it. Just a little bit because I was downtown having a business meeting. But I wanted to talk directly, about the protest. But if you want me to wait, I can wait. But one thing
Yeah,
I want
protest.
people to. Sorry.
We'll go to the protest. The president. Let me play something he said.
Yeah.
Almost everything for giving respect will sit down and try to Osman government. Worker time is gone. You know what I'm saying? Worker should be encouraging young people to be leaders of his party, so young people can lead. Because you got 12 years from now, Worker need to retire so he can have a good health.
The Christmas season is here, Mr. President.
Yeah, but this is
let's leave the politics.
Okay.
Final message for the people of Liberia.
No, I just want to again, I want to thank our partners. Again, I want to thank the Liberian people for the confidence and the trust in me.
Okay, you hurry a little bit, Mr. Kweh.
Yeah. Well, I think he's saying the truth. I mean, what the president is saying. I mean, people at Boakai give you his history and all the time that he has spent in power. I mean, he has nothing to offer the Liberian people, and I totally agree with the president. This is a political exchange, and he has to convince his audience, the voters. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he has to convince the voters, about the reality, and the reality is that Joe Boakai, I mean, he is not ready. I mean, he's outdated. He can't lead. I mean, his time is over, and I think it is time that he rest, and give other people the chance, So I totally agree with the president, totally. And I don't think like what Mr. Kulah is saying over there that is so low and all of that. One of the things that I find with a lot of Liberians is that they feel that they should be thinking for people, and people should think or reason the way they want the person to reason. And that's a great mistake most of us do. And you have Liberia politics is quite different from the Western style of politics, So I think the president, did a good job, and he spoke from his mind. He was very honest, and I applaud him for that. And I think, including Mr. Kulah, should be applauding the president for his views.
Can I please respond to that, Gibson? I mean, Dennis, can I please respond to that?
Yeah, before you respond, I want to just add a little bit more that don't you think VP Boakai should be forthcoming more? I think his speech, which according to the president was in support of the protest, was just one in recent time that we've heard from him. So if he's not coming forth to be very vocal on issues and he's picking one issues here and there, don't you think the president have a point here?
Yes, I think he has a point.
I'm asking Dr. Kulah.
Okay.
That the president has a point regarding what? I don't think the president has a point when it comes to what he did. And for the record, Mr. Shelton, when you're in a debate and somebody gives an opinion, I'm not telling him what to think. Okay, I'm telling you what my opinion is. My opinion of what he did was wrong. You as president, it was childish, in fact. You as president, he didn't help Boycott in a private capacity. He was helping Boycott as president of Liberia based on our budget and our taxpayers' money that says that a former vice president or a former president gets pensions or gets medical bills paid or what have you. All right. Now he comes out, he tells the man's personal business about his health and that he has a pacemaker. That's not politics. That's going into a very confidential issue for to score political points. It was childish and it was wrong. Now that's my opinion. I'm not telling we are how to think. I'm giving you my opinion about what he did. Now, as far as what you're saying, Dennis, do I agree with some of the things that we have said? One thing I do agree with about what we have said is the fact that, yes, Boycott is kind of old, and perhaps he should be trying to nurture the next generation to come along to take over. And I don't believe that Boycott has the strength, the stamina, the charisma, to lead the opposition. And coming out and speaking here in support of the protest, speaking here on one thing, speaking here on one thing there, I don't think we'll do it. So in that regard, yes, I would agree with the president. But what he did, talking about the man having a pacemaker to the point where before the president even said it, some of the people around him that I talked to had already told me, because the president gossips like people say, like a little girl. He gossiped like a woman. And everybody around him knew about this man having a pacemaker.
That's sexism. That's sexism, right? Gossip like a woman. But that was a water cooler moment. Just your reaction to the president. We want to go into our debate tonight. And we want to welcome again our viewers from across the globe. This is Debate Friday on Focus on Liberia. I have with me Mr. Michael Shelton Kweh, from who is joining us from Vancouver, Canada. I have Mr. Jimmy Eastman joining us from the nation's capital, DC, and Dr. Bartum Kulah Senior, who's joining us from Metro Atlanta. Gentlemen, first thing on our menu tonight is the December 13th protest, which is somehow like, they call the protest, or they call it a rally or demonstration. And then also we have December 30th coming up. December 13th was organized by Liberians here in the States who said, December 30th protest is like war. And so they had a demonstration in DC saying, we want peace, not war. Some support one protest or the other. So I'll go to Mr. Jimmy Eastman first, who participated in the December 13th protest, to tell me his stance on both the December 13th and December 30th protest.
Okay, thank you. First of all, it was not a protest. The December 13 rally was only to bring to the attention our concerns. we again, we believe in freedom of an expression, freedom to protest, if that is your expression, freedom of assembly, if that is what you want to do. The Constitution guarantees it, and we support that 100%. What we were concerned about, we heard calls of violence. We heard comments about destroying the airport, newly built airport terminal. We heard statements about violently mistreating our president. And it sounded like to us like, no, these are the sort of chants we heard before that plunged us into war. We're going to bring everybody to everybody's attention that we do not want to go back to war. We do not want to go back to the time that Liberians were running helter-skelter. Mothers had to carry their babies. People were lying all in the streets. Brothers killing brothers. We do not want to turn back to those days. And so our call was to bring to the attention to all, and it reverberated. I'm very happy that it now, after that protest, we started hearing people saying we're going to peacefully protest. Peace. The word peace started being echoed on every broadcast, every statement. I think our message went deep because now the focus was peacefully expressing yourself. So that was what our intention was. Now about December 30, again, I believe that Liberian people should always be free to express themselves. There are many things that are wrong right now that we want to address. We see not enough job improvement. We're seeing issues of malhandling money. So there are transparency issues, there are trust issues. We're seeing all these things, and we know these things are not good. They don't create the kind of investment atmosphere that will even encourage fellow Liberians to invest. We want to see a more business-friendly atmosphere.
Right.
And so we're for people expressing themselves.
Okay.
But at the same time, is protest the only way? Again, we don't want to see the country shutting down every single time for different issues. Can we continue our business as usual and still have our rallies and protests and things function? Do we have to shut the town down every single time? And what about the security issues?
So conclude now, do you support the December 30th protest?
No, I do not support that protest.
And why?
I do not, because I do not see it bringing anything of benefit at this point.
Right. All right. And I will push you a little bit before I go to Mr. Kweh. When you say you don't see anything of benefit, there have been other protests. So there got to be tangible benefits before people exercise their right. Is that what you're saying? You should be able to, what is your litmus test of foreseeable tangible benefits before you can support such a protest?
Okay, excellent. There was a protest in June where the issues were presented, and now they want a response to the issues. Do we have to have a protest to get a response to the issues? That's not my way of going about it. Yeah. Okay? I would go to what I would do. I would press on my representatives in the legislature that these issues we've brought to your attention, We've presented these issues. What are you doing about it? You who represent us. I would prod the legislature to act, to do something, to express what their concern. That's what I would do.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Kweh. Michael, your response on December 30th.
Yes, I applaud the Liberians in the U.S. for assembling themselves and sending out a clear message that they don't stand for the kind of threat that Costa and his cohorts pose to the nation Liberia. Now, I am one of those that are trying to sell Liberia out there to bring investors. I'm trying to convince people that Liberia has a lot of potentials in terms of business. I mean, it is in our constitution that we should protest, you know, and it is, the rules are laid down. There are rules that govern all the steps in protesting in Liberia. If you have a group of people that are threatening the president, threatening to destabilize the country and make the country ungovernable, I mean, it is important that people in the USA distance themselves from it. Remember, our people are, you know, very gullible, very easy to be convinced. There are a lot of political demagogues that are there to prey on the ignorance of people, you know. And there are a lot of people that believe that everybody in the US are supporting, you know, this Costa show. So it's important that his whole show and his display of, you know, of selfishness, if I would put it that way, is not supported by everybody. So I think these guys in the US were very clear, and some of them know the cost that got them there. You know, they don't want it to be repeated. So I applaud them for that. Now, when it comes to the December 30th protest, I think it is totally not in place. We should not lose sight of the fact that protest is another weapon of subversion. This guy Costa and his cohorts, all these like Mo Ali, all those people that couldn't be elected, they are trying to use the ignorance of the people to overthrow. I mean, Dr. Kulah is saying that, oh, peaceful protest, peaceful protest. Sorry?
Mr. Kweh, before you continue, you say protest is a tool of subversion.
Oh yeah, that's a new way to overthrow government now. If you look around the world, of course.
And there have been protests. There was June 7. In fact, the independent COP had 2 protests. There was one protest in DC, another one in Monrovia, call it rally, demonstration, whatever. But, and you are saying these are all tools of subversion?
No. I'm not saying all of them are tools of this.
Okay, what makes December 30th different?
Yes, because this is not the protest that we're talking about in the Constitution. Yeah. The Arab Spring, you can look at the Arab Spring. You can look at what happened in Venezuela. You know, the guerrilla warfare now to overthrow government has been changed. You know, there are new tactics. There are new ways that people go about, you know, to remove government from office, you know. So, I mean, you can just smell it. You can see it from what Costa and his cohorts are doing. I mean, there are other ways we can go about solving our issues and talking about the state of affairs of the country. You can find, it's unacceptable to have people that couldn't be elected, people like Mo Ali, you know, Costa, and they're all political actors. You know, they come in to play holy or try to be the moral gods to speak on behalf. I mean, they are only thinking about their own interest. You know,
thank you.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Let me go to Dr. Kulah.
Yeah. If you guys are listening, what I hear from Michael Shelton and Jimmy Eastman is what those that support the government represent. They come from a position of fear and a position of wanting to control other Liberians. Once upon a time, the very CDC actors now that are in power were all about protesting. Akaris Gray said that Ellen will govern over a bitter Liberia. They did everything, carried caskets on their heads, did all kinds of things, only to get in power and now to say protest is wrong. Now, when Shelton said that the people that went to Washington, D.C. represents Liberians in America, no, they don't. Who are the leaders of that protest? Prince Sharif, one of the big government spokesmen, Michael Gilman, he was the one who drafted the statement. C. Cecil Dennis, who claims to be leading a organization that's supposed to be about peace and bringing people together, but he's chosen sides. He's chosen sides with Michael Gilman. He's chosen sides with the government, whether the government is right or wrong. So these were the people that led that protest. And if it's anything like what was done when we came, the bus that they rented, I'm hearing that is the government that paid for them to rent that bus to go down to Washington, D.C. So it was a segment of Liberians in America that support the government that led that protest. And mind you, there's a video on Jimmy Eastman's page wherein they're inside the embassy talking to the ambassador and he's encouraging him. This is a good thing. But when the other Liberians led by, what a girl named that used to be president of Lama, Yacindi and others, when they went to Washington, D.C., they were made to stand outside. The ambassador didn't want to come to talk to them or anything like that. So what I see is there's a dichotomy. Certain people, as long as you support the government, it's okay for you to protest. It's okay for you to shut down the country and whatnot, because the independent COP led by this guy that left the COP, he had his own little protest in Monrovia. December 13, when Jimmy Eastman then went to Washington, D.C., there was a group that shut down the whole country. You see? So Jimmy Eastman and others have a problem with protests when it's against the government, but when it's for the government, it's okay. And that's the problem with Liberia. Whenever something is in our favor, it's okay, but when it's against us, it's wrong. And I think that's the wrong way to look at any nation, because there's nowhere in this world that says protest equals subversion. If these guys want to be subversive, they won't tell us when 7 months before they're having a protest, they tell us the date of the protest. They come and do it in daylight. When we had our war, what's his name was here in jail. He was let out of jail by who know who, okay? And he went to Butor. That's how he entered. He entered to protest. He didn't leave protest. So protest is not the problem.
Right.
So we need to think about that. Protest is not the problem. And I think, honestly, that because these guys see that there was protests in Venezuela and other places, and I think it was Iraq, and the government resigned, these guys who are now just gotten power and the trappings of power, they're afraid to lose that. So they think that if Costa has this protest, somehow the government will be made to step down and they'll lose everything they have. And I don't think that's it. So I challenge everybody that's listening to us today, go and read what the COP wrote in terms of what they wanted the government to do. I pulled it up. It's on the Daily Observer, Liberian Daily Observer. COP gives final petition. And they go step by step. They talk about the TRC report. They talk about the economy. They talk about good governance, step by step by step by step. And the agreement was the vice president should have come and gotten that petition that day. She never came. Nobody came. Nobody took the petition. The president or none of his people have done anything about the petition.
So, Dr. Kulah, you support December 30th?
I support anybody's right in that country, whether they're opposition, whether they're government, whether there's somebody that just jump up and say, today I get in the street to protest for George Weah. I support anybody's right to protest peacefully. And Jimmy Eastman is wrong when he says that the people only started saying peaceful when they came out. This is what Gilman did. First of all, Gilman lied about Costa saying that he was going to drag George Weah, he was going to burn the airport die as a result of protests. That's not what Kosa said. Kosa said if he comes to Monrovia and he's arrested in that airport, he's not allowed to get out of the airport. It would be a different story there. We'll burn his place. Costa did those things. He said those things. Why? Because that's how they operate in Liberia. Kairos Graydon did it when they were in opposition, and Costa is doing it now because they have to each yell and scream and act tough so that they don't get arrested. Okay, but nobody said they were going to have protests to burn down the airport or to destroy Liberia. That was a spin that Michael Gilman put on this whole thing. And when I pushed him to play everything, he couldn't do it. He cut me off his show. And that's the game they've been playing, the propaganda game. They think that's what's going to win. Instead of discussing these honestly and being honest with our people and honest with ourselves.
Do you also support that a protest calling for the president to step down? I
do. And let me tell you why. These very CDC boys, they did it too. Remember when they carried the casket in there, they had the Ellen step down movement. And one of their main leaders was Moba Molu, was Akaris Gray, and Isaac Vatuba. And I remember they had a serious situation on Ellis Step down. At the same time, their stand-up bearer was Peace Ambassador. And he eventually came out and spoke against it because he was Peace Ambassador. But here's what we're doing again.
Let me let Jimmy.
No. Let me finish my thought real quick.
I was waiting to respond because
here's what we're doing again. Freedom of speech. You are free to say whatever. These boys didn't say they're coming by night to subvert the government. They said where she stepped down, he either leads or leave. Okay, you can say that. That's not. There's nothing treasonous about that. Now, if they go and try to force him to step down, if they go in the mansion, that's a different story. But they can say that. I can say it. I can tell you the setup. In fact, when what's his name first took over, I saw people marching here in Atlanta. Against Trump. I
get that. Let me go to Jimmy.
We need to stop playing these games with our people, man. I need to stop it.
Okay, Mr. Eastman.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that Mr. Kulah is purposely avoiding repeating exactly what I say. We believe wholeheartedly in the expression of speech, free expression of speech and assembly. There are concerns we have with the shutdown of the entire city, businesses, because somebody wants to express themselves. We want it to be done in a way that not only can they express themselves, but businesses and operations in the city, in the capital city, can go on as usual and not have to come to a standstill. What kind of place are you living in that if somebody comes from overseas, the whole town shuts down? Or somebody wants to make a grievance, then the whole town shuts down, the whole capital city. We have to be functional. That sort of activity is encouraged, but why does the whole economy have to suffer when it happens? So, Mr. Kulah, maybe you don't understand business and operations and the economy, that when these things happen, they set back everybody. And what are you gaining? What are the gains? Of course, we want things to be straightened out. Of course, we want to see improvements, but at what cost?
Jimmy, Mr. Eastman, you are
let me answer Jimmy.
Things happen. Hold on, Dr. Kulah.
Let me answer Jimmy real quick. You see the
hold on, Dr. Kulah.
George Weah travels, the whole shit.
Dr. Kulah. Mr. Eastman, you are assuming that when these things happen, there will be chaos, there will be breakdown, and businesses.
No, I did not. Wait. Let me give you an example. I'm not necessarily chaos, but I've noticed that soon as these people, the whole streets are blocked.
Okay.
Businesses people can't move about. You know very well there's very small sinews, I call them, in Monrovia, very tiny streets. and one few hundred people can shut down the city. And we've seen.
Please let me respond to this.
Okay.
Because this is the hypocrisy that's inherent in Liberia. Whenever this independent COP guy, Newville, did his little protest thing, the whole place shut down. December 13, when y'all were in Washington, D.C., y'all had a group in Liberia that shut the whole place down. When George Weah travels, all the ministers go to the airport to see him off. The whole place shut down. So it's not COP having one protest that's going to affect the economy. Everybody does it. So if you're concerned about the economy, you should be concerned when the government people do it.
Please allow me to come
when
in.
they try to shut down, what's his name? Business the other day and said it was Liberian government money. They shut the country down. So let's be fair. Let's be honest, man.
Thank you.
About shutting down. It's about control. It's about fear. That's all it's about.
Thank you.
A lot of these guys have been telling Weah, oh, you can't allow these people to be protesting. You got to shut this down. You got to put your foot down. You got to be strong. That's the problem.
Let me go to Michael. Mr. Kweh.
Yes.
It's fear.
Yeah. First and foremost, we should not lose sight of the fact that Liberia has a dark history when it comes to protest. So, first and foremost, the 1979 protest. It was meant to be a peaceful protest.
It was peaceful.
Yeah, it was meant to be a peaceful protest, right? And we know the result. What happened? Now, when you have a lot of people die, we know that. And when you have a group of people calling for a legitimate government that was elected by the people to step down.
Mr. Kweh, before you go on, let me respond to you before you go on. Why are you making reference to a protest or almost 40 years ago, and you are not making reference to the number of protests that were held during the administration of President Sirleaf?
Yeah, first and foremost, the reason I'm going way back is because this protest has, I just mentioned that Liberia has a dark history of protest, so we got to start from there. Now, I don't want to
use one protest and you are not picking the other 13 or 20 protests.
No, because we don't have time. We don't have time to go through all of that.
No, what I'm saying is the protest under Sirleaf did not have dark history.
No, it had dark history.
Okay, let's make reference to some of them instead of 1979.
Wow. No, I if you want to control my view and how to report my point, then I will give you and Dr. Kulah the time to continue your private conversation because he gave me a lot of time to express himself. This is a man that's sitting there in the confines of his home and saying he supports every kind of protest in Liberia. What kind of Liberian, what kind of man that has the country at heart would say such a thing, given that Liberians, most of us, are very gullible. The illiteracy rate is very high in that country. I'm so disappointed of a person that Dr. Kulah to sit down and says that protests can go on, doesn't matter. Look at these guys that are coming, the so-called COP. They are asking for a legitimate government to step down. So the next, the next government that will come to power, if the other people are against them, you can just ask them to step down as well. What kind of Liberia will we have? That's the question. Dr. Kulah is not saying that if you want to demand a justice and you want to talk against constitutional violation, you have to also not violate the Constitution. You cannot demand people at Costa don't have any record of integrity. More Ali than they had the opportunity to give votes, but they didn't make it. The Ebola came to Liberia. Why we are not protesting the cause of Ebola?
Okay.
When Dr. Kulah is just coming out, making all these horrendous statements, it's very, very sad that people that live in America, very comfortable, you understand, and say any kind of protest, we support it. How can you support a country without the necessary requirements of the protest? You can't do it. You have to go through the right channels.
Right.
You have to ask for permits. Sorry.
Mr. Kweh, and I will bring you back to this point. even though you say it's a private conversation between Dr. Kulah and me. But here is
Yeah.
anytime people speak about Liberia's dark history of protests, they go to 1979. That was 40 years ago. So if we are saying that because protests equal war, why are we going only to 1979? Why can't we count the 20 or more protests that took place during the 12-year rule of President Salif, our immediate history?
Okay.
A lot of people.
Let me answer that very quick. You see, the protests that happened in 1979, it was not only because of the rice price that went up. There was something behind the scene that, I just mentioned, the subversion. There are a certain group of people, I don't want to mention now, that were against the Tubman government. The Tubman government, I mean, they used that opportunity to divide the country and bring the country to a certain level to change the regime. You understand? So that has been a pattern and trend for a while. We know when people are expressing themselves and they have a genuine concern and they want the government to address this concern. We know that. But you have a group of people coming up, in Helen first term, she never accumulated all this kind of protests that we are going through now. You're talking about Akala great and, carry coffee on their heads and all of that. Yes, they did. But was it in the first term? If Dr. Kulah can say that it was not good, will he support things that are not good as well? Just because he's saying that, okay, this guy did it, so other people should do it. What kind of logic is that?
Dr. Kulah, your response.
Let me tell you what kind of logic is. The logic that says that people like you who are controlled by fear and the ability to try to manipulate people by your fear does not work with people like me. You are controlled by fear and manipulation. You fear that these guys will protest and will lead to what happened in 1979. Let's talk. Let me tell you what happened in 1979. The only reason why that protest turned violent is because some crazy police officer discharged firearm among the people and it turned into a riot. So there's a difference between a protest and a riot. And the same thing would have happened yesterday if people didn't keep their heads cool because they decided to block those boys and shoot in the crowd. Okay? So let's talk about recent. Henry Costa them have a precedent. They had a protest on June the 7th, one of the largest protests in Liberia, and it was peaceful. Why was it peaceful? Because no gung-ho police officer shot anybody. When Martin Colley had his $16 billion protest, it was peaceful. Why? Because the ECOWAS people sat across the table with the police and a commissioner and others, and they planned out the route and they did everything to make sure that the people were protected, just like you would protect people supporting WEA. When the police officers and those in power that have the guns decide to be violent, that's when protests go helter-skelter. So people don't just go have protests to subvert anybody. Again, you're talking from a position of fear. You fear that there's some boogie man somewhere that has Costa them coming to have this protest, and somehow they're going to bring WEA down in broad daylight. That's where you're coming from. But I'm coming from a position of logic, the logic that says that these guys had a peaceful protest in the past, and they plan to have another one this time around just to make sure that our government officials listen to that petition. Because since those boys made that petition,
John, I'd like to come in. I'd like to come in.
Nothing has happened.
What Kulah is dismissing are the violent cries to drag the head of state, they burn. He's omitting those cries.
You're lying.
That is the reason why we do not
using Gilman talking points. You're
violence. We do not support violence.
You're lying.
You will be in America while people be suffering.
You're lying.
When last have you even been there to the country? We don't want to see our people suffering. And that's what we talk about. No violence. Let's keep the peace. Okay? You will be here in America while our people suffering. So please.
This man just interrupted as I was speaking.
No,
He's
Dr.
using
Kulah,
Gilman's
Dr.
talking
Kulah,
points.
Dr.
And he's
Kulah,
conflating what Kosa was saying about being arrested at the airport
Dr.
versus
Kulah,
what's going to happen on December 30th. Nobody
Dr.
said they were going to
Dr.
do any
Kulah?
violence on December 30th. That's a lie.
Dr. Kulah. All right.
Go ahead.
Hold on a little bit. Let's go. We have other grounds to cover here. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. And our Friday night debate, welcome. This is our Friday night debate. Still to come will be our political pundit for tonight, Mr. Alex Chuchu Jones. He's going to be joining us tonight so that he can help me keep the peace right here. All right. So, Michael, let me go back to you before we move on to another topic.
Yes.
Michael.
Yeah.
The question here is you were quoting protests like what in essence what you're saying is when there is protests it got to be war, or when people, or is it because the statements are made, or does Costa, even if he say he's going to bring the president down, do you think he has the capacity? What is your fear, as Dr. Kulah was saying, it is fear? What are you fear about?
Dr. Kulah, unfortunately, I would say that he living his own illusions, to say that a person like me is parading in fear or trying to put fear in people. Costa was very clear, and he is very, very, very clear with his message. He is determined to make sure that this government steps down by all means. This is not ordinary protest. And I'm not saying that every protest is a violent protest or every protest is illegal. There is a mechanism that should be followed. You should get a license from the government or a permit to protest so that the government can protect you. You understand? If we don't follow all those procedures, we'll come back again and blame the government. Now, what about the rest of the people that are going about their businesses? Should they be forced to shut down just because Costa want to protest?
So
now,
how is June 7th different from this protest?
Well, June 7th, this guy is being more vocal and being more violent, inciting people more and more.
Okay.
That, he want the government to step down by all means. And I mean, the protest that he had the other time, the group of people that were assembled there, it was just like a fiasco. It was not any genuine plight, like they were to submit their whatsoever complaint or concern that they had. They said they cannot submit it until they release somebody else. Now you should understand that this administration does not have a single political prisoner. This administration is George as a peaceful man, and he has tried everything in his effort to demonstrate that he stands for peace. So, if we are talking about rights and just omitting or forgetting about responsibilities, because where your rights start and stop, other people's rights start there. We are all Liberians. So Costa and those guys that I would call failed politicians, I think maybe Dr. Kulah is trying to request for a regime change so he will get a job or whatsoever. So at all costs, he would say what he wants to say and just don't care about the people over there. Like, I find it very, very unfortunate and disturbing because I was one of those that grew up in the war and I know the consequence of war. Because if you're asking the president to step down, it's a treasonable crime. Now, he has supporters, the president. What are you setting the stage for? If you want, there are a lot of ways we can address our problems. We have the interfaith, we have council of churches, we have the elders, the chiefs. You can go through your lawmakers. Just recently, Donald Trump was impeached. We can go through all those processes, but you can't come and tell me you come for a peaceful protest and asking the president to step down. So you don't care about those that voted for him?
Okay.
Come on.
So your major disagreement with this protest is because they're calling the president to step down. Is that the reason?
Costa said he was going to.
Costa is threatening a whole lot. Costa is a man that needed to be arrested long ago.
Okay.
Long ago. because he has violated the Constitution in many, many ways. This is not a genuine concern. They just, cluster them as people that are being used by certain people to steer cows in our country. And the truth will come out. And every Liberian needs to stand up right now, because what they are planning and what they want to do in our country, it will not be good for every one of us. And anybody that keep quiet to that, it means that you will sit back and you will regret, because we will go back into the same thing that we came back from. People are paying crowd. Forget about all those people that you saw over there. People pay people to go and stand for protest. So these are now, new things that, we can stand up today and say, oh, these are genuine Liberians that are coming up, have genuine concern. People are being paid.
Okay. Let me go to you, Jimmy, for your last word on this topic. Do you actually believe this protest is treasonous, as Mr. Kweh has alleged?
Treason is when you try to take down a democratically elected government, okay? And through violence or any other subversion. That is treasonous. Now, our call was, Liberians, we must maintain peace at all costs. We can express ourselves. We believe in freedom of expression, but not at the cost of our peace, not to plunge us back in war. There are people who will stand in America and talk about, yeah, y'all do this, do that, and they will never see their foot in the country while we suffer. So we say, no, express yourself peacefully. And that message was delivered. And now we see everybody's conscience that we're not, by any means, going back to war. And we're not just letting somebody tell us to start hurting each other again. We've been manipulated before, and we're reminding Liberians, do not let yourself get manipulated. There's nothing wrong with expressing yourself, but do not be manipulated into a war and start killing your brothers again. I don't care what these people say in America, sitting down there, they don't have no plan to go in there. They don't even care, but they're putting their mouth in our business. And when we're running helter-skelter, because all of us suffer in the war.
Thank you. Dr. Kulah, you have 30 seconds to conclude on this protest issue. Then we go to our next.
On this protest issue, again, I say Shelton projecting on me what he said people do. He said, I want to get a job and I want people to bring down the government. That's funny. That's a joke. The fact is, people like Shelton speak from a position of fear, from a position of control, from a position of manipulation, from a position of wanting to put out conspiracy theories. If I didn't know better, I would think that Shelton represents the CDC, that he's a CDC partisan, that I don't know if somebody was whispering for him to say something, that Kosa said something, I heard something like that, but it seems like he's putting out CDC talking points. The other thing is that my brother, Jimmy Eastman, keeps saying that people will bring war. Nobody's bringing war anywhere. It's just that you've been listening too much and feeding off of Gilman's manipulation and conspiracy theories that he's been putting out there, conflating one issue with another. Costa was talking about coming to the airport and being arrested. He also was talking about the time his radio station was burglarized. So you guys need to stop conflating the issue, and y'all need to stop trying to manipulate our people. Stop talking from a position of fear. Stop these conspiracy theories, and let's talk the real issues.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to our next topic of debate tonight. That's the ruling party. That's the CDC. So let me start. You support the government, Mr. Kweh. The CDC, what we know today, has the ruling party. Is it actually the Congress for Democratic Change or the Coalition for Democratic Change? I want us to start on that basis. Why we are discussing the CDC tonight is because from the press conference of Chairman Momba Molu and the post of Representative Akaros Gray and other things that are happening, some are saying it looked like a crack in the CDC, and they're worrying, or they're wondering if the CDC is able to govern with at a time that there seem to be division. Let me start with you, Mr. Kweh. Does the CDC still represent the constitution of democratic change, or is just the Congress?
As I told you earlier, I'm not a seditian.
I know that.
And I think my view in the CDC, like any other political parties or political organization, go through a maturity, go through stages of maturity. You know, there are people will assume that there are cracks. There are human beings, you know, together, working together, get different views. There will be small challenges here and there, you know, but I don't have all the information available to give you right now. And I'm not, you know, a person I like to assume, like my my fellow debater, you know, that would just, you know, have his line that he printed before he came, like operating from fear. You know, I don't work with these kind of assumptions, you know. So I don't really know. Probably, you know, Dr. Kulah will know more, and he can, you know, put out whatsoever you want to say about CDC.
All right. Let me, Jimmy, what are you hearing? Are you still hearing the Coalition for Democratic Change, or this time it's just the Congress for Democratic Change?
That's very, very interesting. You know, like everything else, we go through evolutions. Things evolve. What I have been hearing is that there are concerns that many of the remnants of the past administration are still left in place, while competent, able seditians are not given the opportunity to serve. There are also questionable loyalties. There are some claiming that these ones that were left in place wants to see the downfall of the administration. Now, these could be very legitimate points, especially for political appointees. Political appointees have loyalty only to those that were appointed, but whereas civil servants, they are perpetual. So the CDC, the leadership in the CDC, brought these issues up, and they're discussing them now as to what direction they need to go. It's to me, it's evolution. They have to make up their mind. Who are they? They have to re-identify themselves. Now, the other element of the coalition included the NPP, the party of Jewel Howard. You will notice that you don't hear them very much anymore. We've seen them quiet on issues and on a lot of issues. We don't see them as active as they want. At one point, we even heard that the VP was not given audience and not given leeway when she need the leverage she needed to properly perform. Since then, we've heard that they've mended their issues. But the thing is, from what we're seeing, this is an evolution. And looking down the road, if things are not working, why are they not working? And one reason is one group of the CDC is saying because we don't have enough loyalists there. My observation, my personal observation, having been there several times, you will definitely need some competent, loyal, honest folks to get that economy moving again.
Right. And
that's what my observation is.
We'll go to some examples of why people think that there is a crack. But let me go to Dr. Kulah on this whole idea. Is the coalition still together, or is just the CDC now? What do you sense?
Was the coalition ever together? That's my question. Now, let me tell you what.
They won the election, so they look together.
Let me tell you what I've been able to gather, Dennis.
Okay.
The coalition won the election. It should have been a coalition of NPP, LPDP of Alex Tyler, right? NPP of Jewel Howard Taylor, CDC, and of course, you can't forget Prince White Johnson. He was part of that deal also. Yeah. But I think the main coalition would be the three, right? They were calling themselves the tripartite. Well, the understanding was that they were supposed to govern as a team and make decisions as a team. But then when appointments started being made and the government started running, it became an issue where McGill and his boy Samuel Kweh and the president were running everything and left these guys out. Okay? I've got this from a reliable source. And so what the guys did was they sat back and said, okay, if that's how they want to do it, we'll leave them alone. When they hit the water, we'll come back. And if you notice, they made mistakes after mistakes after mistakes, unforced errors. Quite recently, what has happened was that Moba Molu, Akaris Gray, Fala, and that group felt that they did not have the kind of access to where like McGill and his group. So that was where the split was. And I'm not going to go into the deal that I heard that was played with that made certain people mad.
Right.
But just suffice it to say, the Moba Molu group against the McGill group. Now, the reason why the president quickly patched things up was because their fear was that Moba Molu was going to join Costa and this December 30th thing. Because right now, as it stands, the government has not paid civil servants for like 3 months. I know some top government officials that haven't been paid since September. And then what they'll do is they'll send them a text and say, money is in your bank. When they go to the bank, no money there. That's the game they've been playing. Again, they've been trying to run the government through propaganda and manipulation. So
yeah. Let me. You seem to have a lot of inside information. What's your source?
How can I tell you my source? Are you kidding me? First of all, I'm a private citizen.
Okay.
And even if I wasn't a private citizen, if I was a journalist, I wouldn't tell you. And being a private citizen, how would I come on in the public and tell you my source? You think my source will ever tell me anything again? I can't tell you my source. So just suffice it to say that I knew about the pacemaker before we had even announced it. And he had gone around telling people, okay? Just suffice it to say, the issue is that there's a group, Moba Molu and his group, those guys that made that speech that sounded just like Costa. Everything that Costa there was asking for, that's what Moba Molu put in his speech. That group, they had a meeting with the president at his resort place, okay? And those are the issues that are going on. There's friction within the governance. And people like Eastman.
Don't go to Eastman yet.
No, I want to go to Eastman.
I will come. Let me bring up how this whole thing started. It started, and I'm going to put on the screen the press statement. If you can see, that's the Coalition for Democratic Change. That's the press statement from the chairman.
I wish you could have played it.
Yeah. We have the video.
Audio.
But I just want to show you, and this all started by, as you alluded to, that there's been some, they have some points. Number A, conduct a major reshuffle on the most senior levels of government. B, remove underachievers and underminers functioning in senior level positions. C, order an immediate investigation into the acquisition of real estate properties. D, commission a comprehensive audit of the past administration. C, prioritize our civil servants. D, revisit the harmonization process to ensure that there is equity and parity in the job classes and between jobs. E, ensure that all public officials, with the exception of the president, vice president, speaker, blah, 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 made to fly economic class. F, reinforce the existing protocol or give priority attention to the agreement establishing the Coalition for Democratic Change. G, recall all Salif era ambassadors and senior diplomats. H, ensure that those who contributed to the downfall of past government and have common reputation of being corrupt be distanced, and so on and so forth. So that, let me start with Mr. Kweh. What was that all about? I mean, it's like those are things that they could handle, that they could meet the president and say, what's going on here?
Yeah, you see, when Dr. Kulah make a blanket statement that anybody that talk contrary to what the opposition feel, it says that, oh, you are a sedition, you think like sedition, that's a playbook, you're speaking from the playbook of sedition. These guys had genuine concerns. They have done a research, they have done facts finding, and they are showing to the Liberian people that they have their views, their individual views or collective views that they are holding their own government accountable for, so that the government can come out clear and make some changes. So that is a demonstration that not everybody in CDC think alike. So I think it was in place, and I think that they have done a research. They know what they were talking about. I think it was well reflected upon before it came there. When Dr. Kulah said, "Oh, that's exactly what Costa would have said," or "That is exactly what Costa is saying," you see that it's totally wrong. He's telling you cannot give his sources. Now we should be sitting here and believe somebody that just say, "Oh, somebody told me something," or I have my information. They are all truth. I mean, come on. These guys had genuine concerns, and they pointed to their president.
Right.
And because I think CDC want the best for Liberia, from my viewpoint, and I mean it is very clear. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Eastman. Let me show you another one. This one is a Facebook post from Mr. Carlos Gray, Honorable Carlos Moses Gray. And the first one on December 13, he says, and we all know who Mr. Gray is. He said, the line is drawn and we are resolved. If care is not taken, the true soldiers will make it terribly nasty. The few opportunists don't love we are. He didn't say President we are. Don't love we are or this government more than the masses do. That was one. He didn't stop there. On December 18, he said, we will fearlessly stand for the truism of our conscience, and the winner that we voted for must act now. Then finally, on December, that was yesterday, he said, great, the president took the lead and has listened and will act. The internal indifference is quashed, reconciliation matters, all are needed, will rise. But not before that, Chairman said a united CDC today, CDC to always. This post from a CDC, as they were saying, Liberia. What does that tell you? And where are we now?
Okay. I think we can understand that. I'm hearing echo. Is that normal?
Go,
I'm hearing echo. Okay.
Go ahead.
There were the points that outlined by Chairman Moeller. To me, it's a inner reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when you're involved in an operation, you need an outside view, a different opinion. That's what in fact that what a balancing idea will refine your operations and your process. All those points are good, are salient points, and they should be looked into, because this is one group, and we're seeing these things. Mm-hmm. We want to make sure these properties that you're acquiring, mm-hmm. these other people that you've left in place, each one of these points that he made are salient points, and they should be investigated. This is an inner reflection. I don't see a split per se because people have different ideas. I don't look at it that way. I look at it like, okay, let's refine our operations. Let's change up a bit. What are we doing wrong here? That's what it was all about. And they brought the points. These are the things we think we could straighten out. And now it's up to up to the leadership to respond to that. So I think it's good. I think it's beautiful that we can have a difference of opinion within ourselves in a party so that we can be better later on. I think it's very healthy. It's unfortunate though that Mr. Kulah is bent on personal attacks. I see him going all out about it. Mr. Kulah, I just want to advise, stick to the issues, okay? If you can't stick to the issues, don't get in a debate. All right?
Dr. Kulah, you seem to be loving what's going on in the CDC.
Well, Jimmy Eastman, I'm not on personal attacks. I mean, you know very well your buddy Gilman, that's what he does, is personal attacks. The reality is, Jimmy Eastman, you were on Gilman's show and you spin things just like you're spinning tonight. The reality is there is friction within the CDC. I talk to people. Mr. Shelton, you don't even read Liberian news, so you didn't even have information earlier, and you asked me to talk about the issues. Then you say you're not going to believe me. Okay, don't believe me, but there is friction within the CDC. And this came out of a position of friction being in the CDC, where the Moba Molu group, the three guys that stood up at that podium, they were not getting access to WIA. And because they were not getting access to WIA, they decided to come out strong. And I'm not going to talk about what led to them coming out this strong, because that's something that somebody told me that's personal, and I don't want it getting out. But the reality is, everything that Moba Molu outlined in his speech is what Costa and the opposition and others that have been critical of the government have been outlining. Now, I agree with Eastman. It's good that it took his own people to say something. Perhaps that'll wake the president up. Perhaps that'll make the president check McGill and Kweh. Perhaps that'll make the president assess his government and reshuffle and put the right people in the right places. Because one of the guys that they really are against is this guy called Eugene Fagon. Eugene Fagon used to be a strong critic of WIA, insulted WIA and did all kinds of things. But then the last minute, he jumped ship from URE to WIA, and now he's a spokesman for the government. And a lot of the CDCs don't like that. The other person that's been left in place is Finley. Finley has no record of being in international relations, but he was given foreign minister job. People don't like that, you know? So when you talk about loyalties and people being in place from the old government, these are certain strategic people that the old lady spoke on behalf of them, or they ran their own deal, whatever deal they crossed, they're still in place. And the president and his people are spinning it as it's a government of inclusion and they did this and they did that. But the reality is they know why they did what they did. And so that's where we are with the CDC government. But I hope it'll wake the president up and he'll change things, put the right people in the right places. If Isaac Va took my job, he battled Eugene Fagon when Eugene Fagon used to be against the president. You know, give people that are qualified a job. Put the right people in the right place. Don't just have people there because of whatever loyalties. That's what his people are saying, and I think they're right.
Thank you.
Mr. John, may I come in, please?
At this time, I want to bring our pundit, Mr. Alex Chuchu Jones. Mr. Jones, welcome to this edition of Focus on Liberia, this Debate Friday.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jai, and thanks to the exciting panelists. The views and the commentary is well taken. I just have a few questions to ask, and then maybe we can, as the show goes on, we can progress into more dialogues. But my question to Mr. Kulah, he seemed to support the march, and my question is what's his view on the leadership of the COP? Are they a capable leader? Do they have the experience, the expertise, and have they organized themselves administratively enough to carry on such a protest? And in a wake that we does step down, is this the group that do you have any faith in this group of bringing the people together and having a peaceful transition?
Let me say one thing. I don't think this group is leading a protest to make sure that we're actually steps down. I don't think that's the goal. I think the goal is to shake him up, to make him listen to their petition. And I encourage everybody, go and read those points that those boys made. I think, Mr. Jah, you might have it.
But I mean, the main point is the protest. They're saying that we should step down. So what do you mean by this is not the main point?
No, I don't think it's the main. And the reason I say that is this, because they've been sending mixed messages. Costa on his radio station says he was speaking in his own person. He wasn't speaking for the COP. The letter that the COP wrote asking for a permit, it doesn't say they're leading a protest for where to step down. That's not their position. And the assistant chairman, what's his name, Mo Ali, made it clear at the press conference that's not what they were doing. They're not leading a step down protest.
It changed.
Okay.
That's what they said initially.
Okay,
so what's been happening? They've been sending. They've been sending messages.
And that's the meat of my question. My question is, if they are unable to send a clear message, I mean, you're talking about a national state of emergency. You're talking about one of the biggest protests in the history of Liberia. You're at a point where the people are in economic ruins already in Liberia. Right. And the people who are supposed to be organizing this protest, potentially leading it, they don't even have a single message. They don't have any kind of organization from what we've seen. How then do you support such a group, or what would be some solution? It's okay to, the petition, but the bearers of the petition, do you think they have the credibility to, or we run into another PRC, another chancellor, another, George Weah?
Mr. Chuchu, I think where you're going with this is quite different from the way I see it. I don't see this as a state of emergency. I don't see this as people coming to remove a government. I see this as a protest to shake the government up to do the right thing. Now, even though their message isn't congruent or in one accord, they have a history of having led one protest before, which was peaceful, which was organized. And I think they can do it again. Now, if, let's say, for example, they ask Weah to step down and he decides, okay, the whole of Liberia came out, or the whole of Monrovia came out, and I'm no longer popular, and therefore I resign the presidency of Liberia today. I believe that there's not going to be any situation where we're having any kind of transitional government, because we have a constitution which says if our president resigns, the vice president takes over. Now, so we should be thinking whether we're ready for a Joel Howard Taylor presidency. That's the kind of things we should be thinking about.
Dr. Kulah, do you see any problem at all with the COP?
Yes.
Organization-wise, and
yes.
What's the issue you see? And
this is what I see with the COP, and this is what I pointed out to them. The COP is represented by Henry Costa, who is a member of ALP, Mr. Uri's party, represented by Mo Ali, who used to be with the UP, and he fell out with this government because they sent him up interior and he resigned. And who else? Yeket Koluba is with MPP, which is part of the coalition. But Yeket Koluba has been very vocal and critical of the government. Now, because these guys are associated with the opposition, it seems more or less like it's an opposition thing. But when you listen to the Liberian women calling in, like Kulah, Bonino Weah, and others, and you say, well, this is not so much a opposition thing, but I would wish that Costa them had made it more a grassroots and let the grassroots be the face of this thing instead of people who are part of the opposition and also part of the MPP. That's the problem I have with them.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question for Mr. Eastman, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Mr. Eastman, you claim to be very neutral. My question to you, what do you personally find with Joshua in terms of his leadership, in terms of his execution? Do you feel that he's fit to run Liberia personally? He has the experience, he has the knowledge, he has the right policy, he has the ability to select people who have the expertise and who could get Liberia out of less than 1% GDP to 7, 8, 9, like Liberia's colleagues, like Rwanda. And do you personally feel that this man has what it takes to get this country out of the misery state that it's in?
Okay, I really appreciate that question, and I will tell you the capital that President Weah has. President Weah is very, very favored by Liberian people in general. President Weah could start a movement to change the very mindset of Liberians to working hard and sacrificing for their country. That kind of political capital is very difficult to come by, but he does need the support and expertise of professional Liberians who have gained education, experience all around the world, internationally, coming together and helping him form plans that will orchestrate our exit from this poverty that we find ourselves in today. He also needs influential people that will create the kind of business atmosphere that will bring more industries to life. Most industries in Liberia today are at an infantile level. He needs Liberians to bolster him, to bring about the changes that need to happen before. But he has the political capital that can influence our brothers to get on a movement to change Liberia. And you can't come by that so easily. Whereas the question you ask is very in place. Who are the group that is calling for the step down of this government? Are we going to create a vacuum, or are we going to invite another group of people learning the job, people not going through the proper democratic process?
I mean, Mr. Eastman, yeah, I got your point. I mean, we'll go to that,
Yeah,
but we'll just stick with Weah for a second. Yeah, I
Mr.
just want to give us this follow-up question to Mr. Eastman. Mr. Eastman, you indicated George Weah has. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Jones, I just wanted to follow up on the question you asked. Very important to Mr. Eastman, or if Mr. Kweh can answer that too, that's fine. So with all the things that you've stated that he needs to do, what is his not doing them costing the country?
Okay. Politics, leadership, it has very many dimensions. Okay. Right now, you notice there's a little friction within the party. So when you assume leadership, there's going to be a learning curve. It's not like a job you've already done before. That's one thing about being a leader, a president. It's not like you've already have prior experience. So there's going to be growing pains. Okay, so he's been learning. Now the thing that's happening within the party is where he can take his advice and experience from to change. But there is a learning curve for any leader that's going to get there. And so I think it's still early in the game, and there's great chance he still has the charisma and the love of the people. And I rather he deal with him because he seems to be somebody who is inclusive. He seems to love all Liberians, and I can't guarantee the next person will love all Liberians like he does. And he already has the popularity. All we need now is the proper message and the proper actions, and we'll see Liberia change.
And Mr. Eastman, before Dennis came out, I was going to do a follow-up question. You seem to mention popularity, and which can be a good and a bad thing. Hitler was very popular. Hitler won by massive, love and admiration. And some are saying or pundits like myself are seeing the same characteristics where a man becomes so popular, even deified, where those who support the Weah administration can never come out, including what you just, the whole entire show, and mention anything negative about George Weah. I mean, even Jesus Christ, people say things negative about him. But people who support, I find that people who support George Weah, especially those closest to him, can see nothing wrong. It's always Henry Costa, Eddie Johnson Saliv, Bukume. So what I want you to tell us today and to decide, what do you find is George Weah inadequacy? What are his weaknesses? What do you think that if he can work on, he could be a better man, more so a better president?
Okay. I think one of the things definitely, Liberian people love people to talk to them. Okay. He could make a little more conversation with the general public. People want to hear him. People want to take leadership from him. He because he's not speaking to the people as much as he could, I believe he's leaving a vacuum. He's leaving a door open for anybody to come in and say things. And I think if he talks to the people more, it would be a benefit to him. Number two, I think his election of his chief lieutenants, I think he has to revisit that. I see a lot of lack of expertise in certain places. Just like the Molu was saying, there's some, we're looking at some failures in some places. I think you got just like
can you give us some example? Can you tell us where and who?
I think there has to be much more. The whole bank transaction, the 60 billion, all the different.
So you're talking about Finance Minister Samuel Kweh. You're talking about McGill.
I think there has to be way more transparency in that whole thing.
And I want Michael to answer that question as well.
Yeah, I'm going to him next.
Your time will soon be over. That's why I'm rushing you.
Okay. Well, you leave the rest of our time to you. But let me just answer, can you give us a name of who do you think are not performing that you think George Weah should not have around him, that is not providing him the kind of that stands up for what he stands up for?
I think there's much more need to be done about commerce in the country and industry. Definitely the atmosphere for commerce is not as lucrative as it needs to be. They have to watch how they put tariffs on goods. They have to find a way to encourage investors in there, and the only way to do is to make it a business friendly atmosphere. So whoever, if it's the commerce minister, if the finance, if it's the LRA, the conditions to encourage growth and industry development are not there. That is crucial. It's crucial to our survival. If we cannot increase business activity in the country, we will definitely.
So you're talking about Professor Wilson Tapper. He's the Minister of Commerce and Industry. You're saying that he should go. He's not doing his job.
I'm saying that more needs to be done. These are political decisions. They're tied. They're intertied. I think a lot. Here's one more thing. You asked me what he could do. You have to set goals. Whenever you're leading people in any organization, I've been a manager for 15, 20 years in corporate America. You have to set goals for each one of them. You have to tell them, you have to do this, you have to do, I expect this at this certain time. And when you're reviewing them, you will say, well, you will go over, have you completed these things? Each one of his lieutenants, each one of his ministers, he has to have specific goals for them to achieve.
Right.
And that will improve the entire administration. But if you don't have specific goals, they don't know what they would do. They don't have the direction they need.
Thank you. Dennis? I wanted to ask Shelton, but I will send it back to you.
All right, go ask Mr. Shelton. He seems to be bored now because
Okay, yeah, we're letting this guy. Mr. Shelton, well, thanks for coming on. My question to you, most times Liberians focus on the presidency and they do not focus on the opposition. We are a very crucial state in Liberia, and we have political leaders, and I'm talking in the persons of Joseph Boyka, talking the persons of Benny Nayure, the persons of Alexander Cummings, pastors and leaders in general. They've been definitely silent in this matter. They have not held either the president or accountable for the lack of performance in the commerce and industry and the economics. They have not spoken directly to the Liberian people. What do you think? Do you see that the absence or the silence is consent?
I think that people that Boyka have no merit to, to talk anything right now. It's good that he's quiet, and I think he can be more quieter because they created all the mess that we are inherited. Sometimes Liberians forget that we have three branches of government. We is not responsible or does not have the only power. He does not have the absolute power over every affairs of the governments. People are vetted when they are appointed to political positions to go through the House of Legislature for them to be appointed. And so most of the problems that people are pointing to and only holding we are accountable, I think is a mistake. Of course, you have people like Alexander Cummings coming out, very critical, very civil by way of doing things. You have Darius Dillon. So I don't think people are quiet. I think people are voicing out, their opinions, and people are critical enough. It's just that you have all these noise makers like Costa Dem and these political crooks that are overshadowing all the critics of people that are coming out with their sound opinions. So I don't think these people. I think they are speaking out enough, and they should also speak out to the House of Legislature also, because they are also part of the problems.
Well, the leaders too, correct. And just a quick follow-up before Mr. Dennis kicked me off. Most times when Liberian leaders, again, I'll go back to these people who want to be president, vying for president, at least have made their intentions clear. Ure, Cummings, Boyka, and now we are the current president. What vision do you hear from the utterances from themselves that make you as a Liberian say, yes, this man has got it. He's giving us a plan on how Liberia is going to be, how Liberia can grow. He's showing us how we can become prosperous. Have you ever heard, including the George Weah, what has he said that you can point me to that shows a point-by-point message to show that these people are true leaders, or they're just people who garner support from well-wishers and followers? Thank you very much.
Well, yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question. First and foremost, it's going to be a little bit, some people may feel offended by what I'm about to say, but I usually say not because people like Alexander Cummings so Coca-Cola, I'm just being sarcastic now, will come and think that he has the capacity to run the country. People don't believe in him. Even where he hailed from in Maryland, they don't believe in him. My view, I'm just a single person, but the nation don't believe in his leadership at this time in point. But I like him because he's very civil in his approach, but I don't think he has come out with anything pure. He has not, he does not have the ability to communicate with the Liberians in Liberia. He was very good with the diaspora. He sent out his message, to the diaspora, and some of us get it, but the people in Liberia that have the right to vote, he cannot communicate to them well. So I think he has a challenge with that. And for me, he does not appeal to me. But people like Ure, them, they are just power greed. Their history is so messed up. People like Ure should be in prison for political crimes that are committed in that country. Unfortunately, you only have child still up behind bars. But people like Ure, them, they would never appeal to people like me. you know, and I think Liberia and Liberians know them. They can't forget about our history. You know, Bouaka, of course, Bouaka, you know, I mean, he just stays in the background, does not take responsibility for anything. He pushes people ahead, you know, and he stays in the background and just say a few things, you know, and Bouaka should be retired from politics now after 40 something years, you know, nothing to prove. When it comes to George Weah, he has demonstrated leadership. One of the problems I got with George Weah is that, let me just give a quote from Nicola Machiavelli. He said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." What? You see, one of the problems he has is to allow the massive leakage of information within his government. I think that's a weakness from his part. And I think that, you know, because Weah has demonstrated his leadership I don't believe in just words. Politicians can say a lot of things. Most of them are liars. Weah has demonstrated leadership in many capacities before he even became a president of Liberia. He has done a lot. That's why the Liberian people choose him and elected him in the office today.
Can you name some of those? Can you name some of those things you said he's shown leadership in? Has he won any championship in Europe? Was he the captain of any European team that he took from, you know, to the championship in Liberia? Did he build any business? So name some of those things that you say that George Weah has done. Don't be vague, be specific, please.
George Weah has been a peacemaker from the very first. Let's just even talk when George Weah was in opposition. We all know on 2 different occasions this guy won the election in our country. Because of his leadership ability and his love for the nation, he waived it. What? George Weah, in times of war, he never turned his back on Liberia. In refugee camps, in Ivory Coast, Ghana, he helped a lot of Liberians. I
agree he's passionate. No, we agree he's passionate. We agree he might be a good person, but we're talking about specifically, what do you see? When I look at somebody like Jerry Rawlings, or Thomas Sankara, or, you know, Paul Kagame, they have a roadmap. They're gonna tell you he may be the best finance person in terms of charity. Then he should be running a charitable organization. But in terms of leadership, economically, in terms of leadership, socially, what can you tell me or point to that you've heard from George Weah that he's written, that tells you that he's in the position to get Liberia out of the economic and social mess that is in, other than his electability?
Let me just tell you, this man led a group that won the election. He was in opposition for a very long time.
Oh, no,
and I just pointed out to you. I just pointed out to you.
In America. Trump won election in America. He don't won election. What can you point out that he's done?
Hold on,
popularity.
Let him finish so we can move on to something that I think we got his answer.
I said, Dennis, let me chime in. I beg you, let me chime in real quick. You know,
I want for Michael to finish.
Right. Let me help Michael out here. Alex brings up some good questions. Alex, your questions are excellent. But, you know, let me quote Mike Tyson. He said, everybody got a plan. Everybody got a plan, a fight plan, until they get punched in the mouth. You can have a designated plan. Look at Richard R. Tolbert. He had a beautiful plan to emerge us out. What happened? He was overthrown in a bloody coup. So you can have a plan, but execution is another thing by itself. Things happen that look at Ellen Sirleaf. Ellen Sirleaf was taking us out until Ebola hit her. Ebola hit the country, and that deviated. So yes, there you can come up with plans, and you need plans, and that is why I said he has to have economists, industrialists who have the requisite savoir-faire to direct the country out of where it is. And he will use his gravitas, the political gravitas, to navigate the people to the dream.
Okay, let's Michael finish his thought, and then we go to our last issue of this topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit ironical to ask such a question. This is a man that led a political party and won election in that country. He was in opposition for a very long time, demonstrated leadership that Liberia just came from civil war, and there was gross violation of the constitution when Helen Johnson Sirleaf rigged the two elections. And with his leadership, he calmed down those boys, high-blooded boys, that were ready to do everything, to stir that country up just for them to get their leader in power. And he forgo that, and he talked to them, and they come. That's a perfect leadership.
Okay.
Dennis, can I answer that question real quick, please?
I want us to go to the last thing. I don't think. Let us go to the last issue on this.
I think it's incumbent that somebody who is not sold on where answers that question truthfully. We're not getting truthful answers for these guys.
Okay, I give you 30 seconds.
Yes. The reality is we had political capital, but he squandered that political capital. The reality is that Weah was very popular with Liberian people because of his football prowess. And because of that, guys in Minnesota that built CDC built it around him because they said he's popular, he never took part in the war, and so on and so forth. Politics is numbers, right? But when we talk about leadership, Weah's not a leader. He seems to vacillate a lot. And all you gotta do is listen to Weah when he talks. He does not imbue confidence in the country, in people. He does not motivate people. There's no vision. Leaders normally have vision. Leaders normally have that's something that drives a country. And I don't see that. And when the mistake we made as a people was a lot of the young people said, let's vote one of our own. But the reality is this man had no executive leadership experience whatsoever.
Thank you.
My friend there was making fun of Cummings. You know what Cummings did at Coca-Cola? He didn't sell Coca-Cola. Cummings was at the top, a VP at Coca-Cola. He was in executive leadership position. He's a leader.
Okay,
in a financial situation. So
let's leave it right there.
Difference between being a leader in such a situation and being a footballer, and that's the mistake we made, and we're paying for it right now.
All right. The last issue is we see the COP and CDC, right? Mr. Akaros Gray and Mo Ali on Akaros Gray Facebook say they're chilling. At this time where people see some crack in the CDC leadership, and we see the COP leadership and Mr. Gray hanging together, and we also see Mr. Molo's points which were raised in that press conference, which were kind of similar to some of those issues raised by the COP during the June 7th protest. What does this show you here? Is it that a political rival just hanging out, or do we see something like is the kind of betrayal that they are talking about?
No, I don't think there's any betrayal. These guys, most of these guys, if you notice, if you even look on their Facebook pages, a lot of these guys have been friends over the years. Like even Costa and George Weah's aide were good friends for years. In fact, a lot of these guys, I know them from calling into Costa's show during Ellen's 12-year administration. So all these guys have been hanging over the years. Costa was once a CDC guy and everything. I don't think there's any betrayal here. I think it's just friends, guys that have been hanging over the years, still hanging out. I think that's what it is. I don't think there's anything to be afraid of. George Weah has already patched this whole thing with those boys because he was afraid they were going to join Costa for the December 30th thing. So,
Michael,
I said earlier, Liberia is such a small country. We are all one big family, right? And I don't think, when you have Henry Costa and Mo Ali together, it means that, there's a crack. I mean, we shouldn't make a big issue of all those things. Akaras Gray is free to talk to anybody, he wishes to talk to. And I think Liberia should be like that. We should be able to sit down and talk, even though we disagree on issues, So we shouldn't be enemies. I should be able to, talk with my brother and my senior brother, Dr. Kulah. After this conversation, we should be able to talk. It doesn't mean that we share the same views. So I don't think I agree with him on that. I don't think there's any issues.
Okay, let me bring in two callers here. We're almost out of time, but let me bring in two callers, and when I bring them in, caller, you have 1 minute. Just ask a question, and I start with Keseli Double.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Ja. Thanks for keeping me on the line ever so long and giving me 1 minute to talk.
Yeah, just 20 minutes.
I said 1 minute. I want to appreciate your guests, first of all, and I want to tell them thank you for coming to your studio. Most especially to Dr. Kulah, I want to tell you thank you very much for the level of expose. And to the other brother in studio, the
Eastman, Jimmy.
It is sad that we come to Jimmy Eastman. It is sad that when we come to this conversation, we come with the political party sentiment, which is very sad. Our people about him are suffering. You accept, I just admitted that the people are suffering. The party chairman of CDC said the same thing. There are a whole lot of lapses in the Chokya-led government, and you know it. This government is irredeemable. And for the other young fellow who just came to your studio ill-prepared, I'm so sorry for him. He's not even following issues from Liberia, but yet he wants to talk on the issue. If you are not aware of things happening in Liberia, don't come on the show to talk. Be behind the scene like some of us and keep making your late comments and be making your calls.
Mr. Double,
I'm very sorry.
Yes, my guest personally.
Yes, Mr. Eastman, I want also please address Liberia's crisis from a Liberian's point of view. If you can allow other people to protest, do not deny other people from protesting.
Thank you.
And in no way, any of these protests are going to bring civil war in Liberia. So let's leave the war syndrome on. Or ever seem to be that the CDC is trying to bring war and not the COP. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mr. Eastman, I know you want to respond. Let me get my last caller, 267 area code.
Yeah. Good evening to everybody. My name is Jerry Kweh. I'm calling from Upper Darby, Pennsylvania.
Welcome, Jerry.
I want to thank you guys for. You're welcome. I want to thank all of you for the constructive conversation you are having in studios here. Basically, I just want to highlight two things. The first thing is about the COP. My only kind of constructive criticism I will have for them is I think they need to put forward a united front. They should not have people presenting different views when it comes to the actual goal of the protest. And the next constructive criticism I will have would be for Yeke Kolba. I like Yeke. Yeke is very vocal. You don't find too many people like that in Liberia these days. I commend him for everything he does every day in trying to expose some of the ills of the we-are-led government. But I also want to caution Yeke to kind of let him be a little bit more organized and structure his ideas and thoughts. In other words, let him try to work on the communication aspect of it, and I think that will be fine. But overall, I think the COP should be credited. They deserve credit for what they are doing. In Liberia, most of us, we only discuss pertinent issues, burning issues, or when we're sitting on the beer table. But these guys, I think they've taken it to another level. They are out there on the street, risking their lives You know, so they ought to be applauded for what they are doing. I don't think this whole goal is for we have to actually calm down. Like one of your participants or discussants indicated, I think they're just trying to, like you said, shake him up a little bit so he can make a turnaround and try to get his house in order. But the problem with our president is there is a difference between somebody who does not know something. There's a difference between somebody who does not know something and realizes that he does not know it and try to listen to others who know it and learn from them. When you have that kind of leader, then you have that feeling that the country is going to move forward. But the way he comes across, I don't think he comes across as somebody who acknowledges that he's limited when it comes to leadership, when it comes to some of the technical know-how that will move our economy forward. One of your callers were talking about, asked a question about how we are, whether we are capable to actually move, take Liberia from the dungeons, from the economic quagmire we have. And I think the answer to that question is no. He lacks that sophistication to do it. But if he's willing to surround himself with very sensitive and professional people, I think the country will move forward. I think he should start doing some of those things.
Thank you so much for calling.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Eastman, you go first.
Yeah, I believe the caller was asking about protesting. Again, nothing is wrong with freedom of expression and freedom of assembly. We love that right and that freedom. But that right and that freedom comes with responsibility. What we were doing was letting everybody remember, let's not go back. Then let nobody fool you and go back. Nobody, whether somebody's declaring or not doing, we're putting it in everybody's ear. Do not let yourself go back to war. We're putting it in everybody's ear so they can hear. Do not let yourself go back to war. And that was our message. And our message was heard loud and clear, because since then, all we hear, peaceful demonstration. We support peaceful expression, but we are afraid of allowing ourselves to slip. Whoever thought we would have slipped? Can you imagine Liberians massacring each other? Liberia, where you could lay down in the street with money in your pocket and nobody touch you. We became murderers overnight. We do not want to slip back by any means, and so we put in everybody's ear. Do not let yourself slip back. I'm not a politician. I'm not in any political group.
Really? You're still not a politician?
I'm not a politician. I'm not in any political party. But my message is clear. Liberians, we have to protect ourselves. We have to protect our peace. Don't let nobody fool you to go back in a war.
Thank you. I want to conclude on that, just to show the picture that I saw that were funny. The arrival of Mr. Henry Costa in Liberia. I mean, he closed the city down, and then we have Representative Yeke Koluwa. So people were laughing at him. They say he's a representative, but Costa in this picture look like the representative. So that's a joke. But the last thing I want us to discuss tonight is on the money. There was a request to not Congress, to the legislature to approve first the infusion of $4 billion and also printing money. So this whole issue about new money. The other day we saw Representative Yeke Koluwa with some new banknotes that he got from the bank. Dr. Kulah, let me start with you on your reaction to this whole money thing. Printing money, infusing money, new banknotes that were said they were already printed, that they were in the country. What's your take on this whole money issue?
My take is that the government PR machine and their propaganda machine has failed them again. I want to take you back to when this money issue first happened with the 16 billion, and Minister Eugene Nangbe was on VOA. He exposed the fact that monies have been printed in China, in this place and that place. Some came through the airport and some came through the port while this government was in power. The finance minister came on and said, no money lost. Y'all shut up, man. No money lost. What are you talking? I mean, my friends calling me from America and saying we must be stupid people. The whole money lost, no money lost. We infused the money into the economy. Okay, if you infuse the money into the economy and no money lost, how come our people got to a situation where they go to the bank to take out money, they can't get no money, okay? When they were getting monies, it was nothing but old bills they were getting. What happened to this new money that was initially infused into the economy, according to our finance minister? And I keep saying to these CDC boys, you cannot run a country through propaganda and lies. It may have worked during your opposition days, but it can't work now because the people see it, they smell it, they feel it. So you cannot tell them it's raining when you're peeing on them. And that's what they keep doing over and over again. So now here comes our president who wants us to infuse money into the economy immediately for the Christmas season. First he said infuse and print. Well, no, first he said infuse. And then when Senator Dillon brought it out, the temporary pro temp said, oh, no, that letter was not read. We didn't get that letter. So they said, the president said infuse and print. How are they going to infuse and print $4 billion Liberian dollars in this short period of time during the Christmas season? How is that possible? All I can end this with is, oh, what a tangled web we weave. And you know the rest. That's what CDC been doing.
Mr. Kweh, let's use your MBA here.
You see, let's go back to the responsibility of the central bank. You see, the central bank, the central bank is responsible is the only entity that is solely responsible for the issue of currency in order to secure control over the currency and credit. Mm-hmm. It is given that mandate. And when the central bank advised the president, based on adequate research and facts on ground, mm-hmm. the government found it necessary to follow that advice, and they took it through the House of Representatives and the House of Senate. Now, Mr. Kulah and other people coming here pointing to the government, pointing to the executive branch of the government, and saying that, oh, these guys are responsible. These guys are the one. I mean, it's the entire structure. You have two branches of government acting, then you blame the government alone. I mean, Dr. Kulah, I don't know his economical background, how you understand, what you understand about economy, but Liberia has had a structural problem when it comes to economics. You have the black market that have overshadowed Liberia for a very long time. You also have a government, the executive government inherited a huge inflated economy, wherein money were printed, and there was also a large that there were a lot of forgery. It is clear that the government had lost control. The central bank had lost control in terms of the amount of money supply on the market. We know what Helen and her children did that led to all these things of them being in prison, and the investigation is still going on over there. So if there is a shortage on the market, you have experts on ground that have looked at this idea very well, and they went to the House of Representatives and they went to the House of Senate and they approved this thing, that you come to blame on the George Weah, I think is very unfair.
Thank you. Mr. Alex Chuchu Jones.
Well, I want to go back to Shelton because I think he understands a lot of economics. So let him educate me. you have a 30% inflation rate. And so who are the experts at the Central Bank of Liberia that advising the House and the President that with a 30% interest rate, go and print more money? So can you give me one of the names? Because I know most of them there. And what do you think as an economic student that you're facing almost a runaway inflation? Would you recommend printing more money when you have an inflation problem?
Yes, I mean, listen out. First and foremost, you have a lot of people that kept the money and caused this false deflation situation. I mean, the government first tried to put deflation mechanism in place, and you have a lot of people keeping the money at home. You have people that print excess money and they just keeping it at home when the rate goes up, so that they were, create more inflation. So what will happen when the government print money? They are saying that they will try to ensure that this money will not be, falsified easily. That's one thing. And secondly, they will catch all those that are keeping the money home. Because if you bring certain amount of money to change, we would know where that money is coming from. You understand? So, I mean, we should not look at it from a narrow perspective.
Is that economics or just common sense?
No.
Yeah.
First and foremost,
So, Mr. Shelton, let me be specific to the question in all fairness.
Yeah.
You study economics. You're a student of economics. Would
Yeah.
you recommend any country in the world that is facing 30% double inflation since the person got there to print more money? Tell me one economic or economist or economic theory that tells anyone print excess money when you're facing an inflation.
No. I mean, the way you're posing your question in the general term, it will be no. You will not print more money. You will try to take out more money from the economy to be able to reduce inflation. But we are talking about specifically Liberia right now. The black market has been empowered to the extent that the central bank is almost losing control, or probably they have lost control. So they are dealing with a systematic problem that is ongoing in Liberia right now, because Liberia problem is quite different at this moment. There are a lot of people.
Liberia doesn't operate. Liberia doesn't operate like Guinea, Ghana, like any other country in the planet. It's a different planet with no economic mechanism. Liberia is separate because other African countries in West Africa, they follow the economic policy and they're not facing 30% inflation.
No, but you had a mess that was created. You see, money, when money is printed and become a currency printed, it become a legal tender when it is passed by the House of Legislature and the House of when it passed by the House of Legislature. Now, the problem here is that some money was printed and it was not, a valid or legal tender, but it was infused into the economy. So Liberia is having a different and unique situation right now. So you can talk about theory on the general terms, but we're talking about a specific situation wherein our economy is the former sector is almost losing control. That market has taken over totally, and that needs to be addressed.
Thank you for your answer.
Thank you. Let me get my last caller. So I can last caller, your name and where you calling from? Okay, hold on. My last caller. You'll be the last caller. Your name and where you calling from? 443 area code.
Everyone crazy, man. What?
Hello, caller. Your name and where you calling from?
Baltimore. I'm Thomas Ansumana calling from Baltimore.
Your voice is very low.
Can you hear me?
Speak up a little bit?
I'm Thomas Ansumana calling from Baltimore.
Mr. Asumana, welcome to Focus on Liberia. Your question or comment?
Thank you very much. Thank you. I just listened to the panelists. I want to thank you for bringing me on and also thank the panelists. There are three of them, and the question goes to two of them. My question here is, people keep pointing finger at the past government. that they did this, they invested money, they printed money that were not accounted for. And one more thing about that, certain amount of that money was missing. And even the chairman of CDC attested that equal amounts of money were taken from the bank. And recently he came out to say that people are acquiring wealth overnight in a short period of time. Accountability should be given. So I would like for your panelists to please address the question, each of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Jimmy?
Yeah, so what was the last question he asked, the final?
So you were not paying attention.
No, I was paying, but the last part of his question, I didn't get it.
Okay. Let's respond.
Mother came out.
Okay, repeat.
Mother came out to say, my last part of the question was, Mother came out to say, people are acquiring wealth over time. So they should be investigated. Okay, and he said, pickle law of trucks, when the 16 billion issue came about in Liberia, pickle laws of trucks were taken to people's homes. Can each of you address these questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I don't have knowledge about trucks going to people's homes. Those are rumors. It has to be substantiated. But let me address this. Let me go back to my undergrad for 30 years ago. There's lack of transparency in this whole money issue, and it is really dark and confusing because we have heard different stories. But first of all, what determines the amount of money you need in circulation is the number of transactions that's going on. So that's the central bank calculates, okay, look, the amount of business changing hands, how much money do we need in circulation? That determines how much money you're supposed to have printed. We have a unique system, very unique in the entire world, because we have a dual monetary system. I heard some people refer to it as black market. It's not black market because U.S. dollar is also an official official note in Liberia. So not really. But what we do have going on is that people have apparently lost confidence in the banking system. They're not putting the money in the banking system. That looks like one of the apparent problems, that they're not putting their money in the banks. I have heard that the reason for that is government has been borrowing against the reserve. And that may be creating a problem. The other issue that's going on, we've heard before that there were counterfeits. Counterfeits have been circulating amongst the money, all right? And then there's all the money. Okay, these are the different things they have to deal with. So if we have to print money, what I would recommend, that it has to have oversight, because apparently things were not handled the right way. That is for sure. We're talking about going outside the process. There's a certain procedure of bringing money in, ordering money. All that has happened proves that somebody went outside the normal process of doing it. We're talking about infusing money, going to money exchangers. All these things do not appear to be normal central bank practices. We are going outside the process. So it is very apparent to me that there needs supervision, legislative supervision. Those guys are our watchdogs. They are watchdogs over the country. They need, if they're going to have to print money because maybe it is a dire need, it's something that has to be done, but we need some kind of oversight, because from what the past experience has shown, it had not been handled properly. We need direct legislative oversight in any issuing of money or printing of money. Let it be as transparent as possible. Let's try our best to restore confidence in the banking system. What are our reserves? Are our reserves there? Those are the things that is challenging the system. Okay.
But Mr. Eastman, I'm sorry, Mr. Eastman. You talk about oversight and you talk about going through the banking system. Wasn't it the same Samuel Kweh in his mop-up exercise that took over $15 million and went to change the money changer outside of the banking system? Wasn't that in Joshua? Okay, but you're the same person who thinks that this president has the fortitude, right? He has the popularity and the leadership ability. This is his finance minister. He appoints the central bank governor. He
Right.
appoints all the people in the central bank. So if his people are going in the black market, then do you find a problem with his leadership?
Okay, I think that's a fair question. First of all, he has to appoint people to do the job. He cannot do the jobs. If the people have failed to do the job, then he will have to change them, which is indicated in the Chairman Molu's speech. He has to reshuffle people. Sometimes some people are good at certain jobs and they're not good at others. For instance, I know Winston Topper is one of the sharpest Liberians I know. Been knowing him for a long time. Went to UPenn. Very, very sharp fella. I mean, go through law school. Just very, very sharp. But everybody has their forte or where they better fit. If you find somebody has not been performing well in a position, then you have to change them, remove them. You have to make that reshuffle. Okay? But you can't do every job. You have to appoint people to do the job. One last thing. There's a thing in all Liberians, you have to pick from Liberians. If 90% of the Liberians figure we can bend rules, no matter who you pick, almost, okay? If you look at taking from a random set, people will bend rules. What about propagating the change of mind? We must not keep bending rules, breaking rules, being dishonest. Let's change the mindset. Let's change the mindset of everybody, because no matter who you put there, will be another Liberian. And if that mindset is the same, you will have the same problem.
Thank you. We'll soon be bringing down our curtains, so I will go around the table to get your final comments. But let me give just my one last minute to a caller who's been waiting on the line. I wanted to close it, but let me be caller 612. Your name and where you're calling from, and please, you should say under 1 minute if you can. Hello, caller.
My name is Eddie Collins. Can you hear me? Hello.
Say that again. Your name?
My name is Eddie Collins. I'm calling from Big Lake, Minnesota. Yeah, Eddie Collins. I'm calling from Big Lake, Minnesota.
Thank you, Abby. Your question or comment?
Yeah, okay. I just want to make a comment. My comment is that I foresee another monetary calamity on our hands with the infusions of the $4 billion, which is about $27.3 million US dollars that the legislatures have given the approval to the government, especially Judge Weir and his central bank, to infuse into the economy. My point is, they haven't given any account of any of the 16 billion, the 25 million have been infused in the economy, which have brought us to this point where we are right now. And now, another $4 billion Liberian dollars is about to be infused into the economy. In the next 3-4 months, the legislatures will, no hesitation, give the approval again to the central bank to print another 30 billion. Because I understand that the first one, presently, we have close to 28, 29 billion Liberian dollars in the economy, plus 4 billion is about 33 billion. And so what's going to happen is there will be a calamity of inflictions. Our country is going to be more than Zimbabwe. We are going into a deep hole, that I can say. So, we have to stand up and be able to tell this president that what he's doing is wrong, and all of those economists around the world who are all Liberians, those bankers who are Liberians, they should come together and be able to tell our president, look, what you're doing is wrong. Let us settle the issue before we can infuse any money into the economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right. And I want you to include this in your closing statement. Is we all say, the government, and I start with you, Dr. Kulah, we are, but the legislature, they are the one that proving we have 16 billion, we have 25 million, now 4 billion. So can't you see it's not just we are?
Of course, it's not just we are, it's the whole country. The country is a big joke. Any country that will sit there and allow the pro temp, the speaker, to be from the same party as the president when they don't have the numbers, but instead they made an arrangement. Okay, y'all would take the pro temp, would take the assistant, y'all take the speaker, would take the deputy speaker position. It's not a serious country. So as a result, you pretty much approve everything the president brings through. With Ellen, it used to be a brown envelope with "we." I don't know what it is. Just singing "we" praises and do what he says because this other person, wife, is working as this administrator at this place or that place. I mean, we can't run a country like this, and it's sad. I hope we change things at 2023 when we get ready to elect a new crop of legislators, because we need serious people that would check the president. In a situation like this, where Weir doesn't really have vision to move the country forward, the economy forward, if we had serious people, they could make sure people like Samuel Twelve wouldn't get approved. They'll make sure the present governor and the one before wouldn't have gotten approved. This guy who was just made governor has no real experience in banking. His degree, I think, is in public administration. And all he was a compliance officer at a bank in the US. And he's been working in Liberia, some other department that he didn't even put it on his resume. He couldn't even tell him if he was a US citizen or not. So our legislators are not serious. I think it's about time we start to tell them what they really should be. They should be like elders, wise elders of the country that keep the president in check, that make sure that our country goes straight, that make sure that when the president brings people to them, they make sure that that person is correct for the job. But they're not doing that. So they do have a responsibility. And if you, again, I keep pointing y'all back to the COP document. The COP has everything on there about the legislators, the judiciary, the president, and they go step by step by step what you should do about judicial reform, about the economy, and so on and so forth. So yeah, we need to hold everybody accountable. And I think it's about time that the president thinks about reshuffling his government and bringing the right people in place so that the country can move forward. Gilman and others need to stop scaring our people. There's nobody bringing war. There was no issue of war. Most of them have always been talking about a peaceful protest. It didn't take nobody going to Washington, D.C. for them to be using the word peaceful. They've been using the word peaceful from day one. Martin K. Cully led a peaceful protest. Emmanuel Savage led a peaceful protest. The June 7th was a peaceful protest, and they've been saying peaceful protest. So let's stop conflating the issues and let's deal with the reality of what's going on here and allow the people their freedoms, and don't just be against one person shutting down the country, but other people get shut down the country because they're singing the president praises or because they're with the president. We need to stop that. Let's stop the fear. Let's stop the conspiracy theory. Let's stop all the fear mongering, the manipulation, and trying to control our people by saying we should stand strong, not allow anybody to show he the chief. You gotta show he the man. Don't you be allowing people to protest. No, we can't have that. And that's why I listen to Gilman's show. That's why I listen to all these guys, Prince Sharif, Classic D, to know what you guys are thinking. And all of you are singing the same song, that we should somehow become a dictator and dictate to people that they can't do this, they can't do that. And each time he's done that, it's backfired. Nobody should cuss the president when I walk in the street. Nobody should do this. But he comes out, he curses the jurists. We can't be like that. We have to be straight. We have to run this country properly. And those of y'all who know better, you need to tell the man the truth and tell them to run the country properly. Let's stop all the spin.
Thank you, Dr. Kulah. Mr. Kweh, your last word.
I want to thank you for having me on the show, and my special thanks go to the my fellow debaters. I'm appealing to all Liberians to understand that Liberia has come a far way. We are resilient people. There is a hope. Now there's a cloud of darkness over Liberia because of all the situations that are ongoing now, but I believe that we'll come through. We'll overcome this as well. We should not just look at what people are saying. Every man has his responsibility to think for his or herself. I believe that the problem that Liberia is going through right now is inherited by the current administration. I believe that with the input of every Liberians, we can criticize, we can point fingers, but we should also bear in mind that we have responsibility to keep that country safe for every one of us.
Thank you.
Nobody's going with fear mentality. At least it's not conscious. It's not conscious. We are going through a situation right now that I believe, if Liberians sit down and reflect upon all we have gone through, there are ways we can solve our problems through negotiation, through dialogue, and hold everybody accountable equally. So I just want to appeal to everybody. Nobody should be used to go on the street, to go and protest in a way, in a manner that will cause destruction to their lives and the lives of other people. There are people out there that are preying on young people, that are preying on innocent people and ignorant people. So we should be mindful of them. And I just want to thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kweh. Let's go to Jimmy for your closing statement.
Okay, then. It's been interesting, Dennis. I really appreciate being able to come on and discuss these issues. These are pertinent issues. But I want to say this: if you take a list of the poorest countries in the world, you'll see many of them fall in Africa. Why is Africa so impoverished? There are many issues that have us where we are. And I cannot think of anything more significant than know-how. Know-how and ethics. Those are two things. Do we have ethics? And do we have the know-how to do what we need to do? Liberia is no exception. People have always brought our country down. They criticize, they bring it down, they don't find ways of building the country up. The only way we will change Liberia is we change a mindset. We change a mindset where we will, each of us, prop each other up and be honest to each other. Be honest about the job we do. Be honest to the country. Those things have to come first. Liberia has to come first. The situation we find ourselves in now, it can be turned around. I'm an engineer by profession. We always go to places there's nothing there or it's complete calamity. It can be fixed, but it got to be constructive. The leader, the lieutenants our president chooses will make him or break him. They are critical. But what is just as important, what we're realizing, the workforce, the other people that work in these ministries and in these departments all have to be trained. They all have to be not educated to go to school, but they have to be trained. We have such a gross lack of training there. But we have somebody who knows about training, who has trained himself to the epitome of his profession. He knows how to train himself. If he can inspire our people to get the training and education they need to govern themselves, we'll be a mighty country. We'll build on our strength of unity and embrace our diversity and challenge the outside forces that make Africa poor today. We can do it, but it would take integrity, it would take training, and it would take honesty.
Thank you, Mr. Eastman. Let me go to Alex. Alex Chuchu Jones, you're on the line.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, and thanks to all of you guys. My only disappointment here is that you have such brilliant people on the show tonight. Kulah, Eastman, Shelton. Why do we always allow the people with the least experience in Africa and the least educated ones to always lead? You go to Nigeria, you see the same problem. Eastman, when I listen to you, you should be president of Liberia than the castle of Ria. You seem to have more knowledge on these things, and so is Dr. Kulah and Shelton. He should be finance minister. Why is he supporting someone when he has more knowledge and experience? So again, to add to your list of things that I think we need to change in Liberia, we need to change the way in which our structure, our political, social, economic structure, the way people are elected in Liberia is a disaster. People are not elected on merit, and I've been trying to preach this. People are waiting for the next election. Alien came, it was a disaster economically for most people in Liberia. Yes, it was a little better, but it was still a disaster. We're still living on $2 a day, and over 80% of the population was suffering. It's even worse. And the reason is that because people like you and me, we want to sit here and allow people to come in and Europe and to lead a country when these people, some of them don't have the expertise and experience. That's my disappointment. The NSCA can do a better job at Ministry of Information. He's run a studio, but he wants to sit in America and let, what's his name? Forgot the guy's name from, I don't want to use a derogatory word, but to run this thing. So we have to take responsibility. That's my closing comment. We have to be the one, not Costa, not George Weah, not Cummins, people who are even afraid to come and have an intellectual debate with their peers. So I respect you guys because at least you have the intellectual ability to hold a conversation in a group. So thank you, and you guys are my leaders. Not Cummins, not Weah. If Weah wants to be a leader, let him come on the show and tell us that you can come on. What are his plans? How is he going to turn us around? That's the kind of leader we're looking for. Not people who sit in the background and let other people do the biddings for them. No leader would do that. Whether it was Dr. King, Gandhi, Goma, Kwame Nkrumah, all of them. They were leaders who had vision and ideas and they could express it. So until these people come for all the good work, no respect for them. And you guys, I hope we can continue the dialogue and we can work towards solutions and not always debate. It was a pleasure being on the show, and hopefully next time you can ask some questions so it's fair to me as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the show tonight. I really, really appreciate your time and the exchange. It was very civil, and that's what we do here at Focus on Liberia. We talk about the issues, educate and promote all things Liberia. Join us tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern. My man, as soon as he will be here on the Politics Hour. He got some breaking news that he wants to break tomorrow at 11. So we want all of you to be here. 11 Eastern. Get your dial set on Focus on Liberia. On Sunday, the Miss Menen, the Liberian artist, will be here too at 6. And we'll also be talking about the DED. We found out that those on DED, the bill has been passed for them to have green cards. So we'll have some of the leaders that champion the cause. They will be on Focus on Liberia to discuss that. Until then, I want to thank all the viewers, all those who call in, and all those who posted comments. I'm sorry we don't have time to go through all the comments, but I appreciate your time so very much. Until next time, I want to say, Dr. Kulah, Eastman, and Shelton, we keep calling you Shelton. You are Michael Shelton Kweh. Thank you.
It's okay. It's okay.
Thank you guys so much for coming. And from me to you is good night and God bless.